Practically Imperfect Ohio Mom here in Niagara Falls, New York. There's Presley. About 10:30 last night, I said, 10:30 p.m. I said, hey Presley, what do you want to do tomorrow? We're kind of like Phineas and Ferb in that way, Disney reference. So I said, want to go to Buffalo? She's like, okay. So that's what we did. I am going to include in the video our first stop, but this is our second stop today. We just finished dinner at the Dirty Bird here on Rainbow Avenue on the way down into Niagara Falls, in Niagara Falls, New York. Chicken and waffles. Guys, the chicken, tender, juicy, fell apart, waffle, just the right amount of crispy and soft, and the sauce, the maple syrup, just fantastic food. It is carry out, just so you know. They do have a small patio in the back, but they prefer you to carry out and go. But Presley and I met the owner's best friend, and he was so nice, so accommodating. He asked us if we wanted to eat on the porch, so we did. If you are ever up here in the Niagara Falls area, I highly recommend the Dirty Bird, chicken and waffles, excellent food. So I'm gonna get all fancy and call this my post-production video. As I'm going through the editing process, I just wanted to add about our first stop. Our first stop, and the whole reason we went to Buffalo, was to see the Teddy Roosevelt Inauguration National Historical Site. You know, we're a bunch of history nerds up in here. And so when I read that that's where this site was, I knew we had to go because Teddy Roosevelt is Presley's favorite president. She just loves researching about him, reading about him. So I knew that's what we needed to do. And that's why we went. Now, why are there not any pictures or video? Well, it's a National Historical Site, and it was a guided tour. You know, I'm all about respecting people's privacy, respecting the tour guide, who was really, really nervous to give the tour anyway. They're just volunteers. They're not used to being videotaped or, you know, so I try to be respectful of that, and I took just that little bit of video that you'll see coming up of Presley at a presidential desk. So just wanted to talk a little bit about the National Historical Site and some of the things that we learned there. And that way, when you see that that's where we were, you'll know a little bit. So, of course, President McKinley was assassinated in Buffalo. We also visited that spot, which is now a neighborhood. He was assassinated at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo. He was supposed to go when it first opened for opening weekend, and according to the guide, Ida McKinley had been ill and he stayed with her and was not able to attend the expo. So he set the September date as kind of I'm going to make it up to you. Come out, shake some hands, meet some people, deliver a speech. And unfortunately, McKinley was shot twice while he was giving that speech, according to the tour guide. So then he was taken immediately to the hospital. At that time, Teddy Roosevelt was in Vermont, I believe is what they said, and he had to catch a train and immediately come to Buffalo when he had learned that President McKinley had been shot. So Vice President Teddy Roosevelt at the time took the train, came to Buffalo, and when he arrived in Buffalo, he had a friend named Ainsley Wilcox, who owned a home there in Buffalo. And instead of staying at the hotel as Teddy Roosevelt thought he would, his friend said, no, come stay at the house. It's much more personable. And we're halfway between downtown Buffalo and the Pan American Exposition. So, you know, you're kind of right in a sweet spot here to go to both. So that's what Teddy Roosevelt and his family did. They stayed with their friend during this time. And then President McKinley had an upswing in his health, and it looked like he was going to be okay. So the cabinet members and people in politics talked to Vice President Roosevelt and said, you know, you and your family were headed upstate New York for a family vacation. We think it would be a good idea if you continued to go to your vacation. President McKinley seems to be doing well. We think he's going to pull through. And I think it would be a sign to the American people that you go on your family vacation, kind of stating that, yeah, we're all in this and President McKinley's on the upswing and everything's going to be okay. So, sorry, that was my hand. So, Teddy Roosevelt took his family and went to the Adirondack Mountains for a family vacation. A couple of days passed and President McKinley took a turn for the worse, and they sent for Teddy Roosevelt up into the mountains. They actually had to send somebody to go look for him in the mountains, and he had to take a wagon out of the mountains into the nearest train station, and from what the guide says, by the time he was on the train to come back to Buffalo, he had learned that President McKinley indeed had passed from his injuries. So again, his friend, this Mr. Ainsley Wilcox, met him at the train station, picked him up, brought him back to his family home, and was trying to make the president feel as comfortable, or vice president at the time, feel as comfortable as possible until he could figure out, you know, what needed to happen. This is not any kind of circumstance that anybody wants to take up a presidency in. So, you know, Roosevelt was, of course, getting a lot of mixed feelings about how he felt for Ida and how his heart went out to her and McKinley's family. And at the same time, he had to be cognizant of the fact that he was going to step up and take the oath. So they decided that the inauguration would take place in the Ainsley Wilcox family home. There were a little between 40 and 50 people permitted in the library of the home for the inauguration ceremony. Several reporters, only one photographer / videographer, again in like 1901, and he dropped his camera, so there is no footage of any of this. So that's the story of how this came to be a national historical site, because the inauguration was actually taken inside the home of this Ainsley Wilcox in Buffalo. So that's pretty much, you know, a little gist of what the tour was. There were a lot of rooms to explore, rooms that were kept the same as when President Roosevelt took the oath. There were rooms that were solely for informational purposes with a lot of interactive displays. I highly recommend going. We love visiting presidential things, so we, of course, were there for a long time because we read every single little note and interact with every display we're allowed to. So we were there for a couple of hours, and we really enjoyed it. So the video that you're seeing of Presley is one interactive display. They had recreated President Roosevelt's office from the White House, and the desk that she is sitting at had an interactive display where it would give you 3 essential issues of the time, and you had to either sign the issues into law or veto the issues, and then it told you how your perspective compared to that of President Roosevelt. So that was pretty interesting for her. And then they could take your picture behind the desk and send it to you through email. So we did all of that. We explored a little bit of the grounds outside, and so you'll see a couple of those pictures, but again, no video, because I try to be very respectful of where we're at and, you know, the people that are involved. And like I said, it was a guided tour with other people on the tour with us. So just wanted to give you a little bit about the whole reason we went to Buffalo. That's the pictures. You're going to see a couple of the pictures you'll see are from that visit, but I don't have much video. From there, we stopped for lunch / dinner on our way into Niagara Falls, and then we visited Niagara Falls, so you'll see video of several different shots of Niagara Falls. and then we came home. It's about a 3-hour and 45-minute trip there and back. So we spent a lot of time on the road yesterday, but it was a great drive and we really had a good time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching.
Is authorized for operation of the U.S. Forest Service. The President shall no longer possess authority to create new national forests in the state of Washington. Wait, I wasn't listening to myself. Are you videoing this?
Way to be president.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens. I work too hard. This or the authority to create new national forests. And no, wait, veto.
Sign.
You can't sign it and veto it.
Oh.
I don't think. Oh. I did the exact opposite of everything. Oh my gosh. Wait, did I read the last one right?
And then you've got this guy living on the edge.